Hello and welcome to Elbow Deep with Wayne. This is a podcast now, and basically this is where I talk to random people because I can. Um,
Hi.
that's my mum, NZBMA. This is the co-founders down. So NZBMA is our business, which is
Yes.
fun. I'm the body mechanic. I came up with my own treatment style, and I've been a therapist for like 20 years. Um, and over that time, I've kind of developed my own thing. And so this construct, this little whatever, is to sit down, have a conversation, and start breaking down some of the stuff that I noticed. So we started kicking off with mum, um, because that's essentially where we all, well, my journey anyway, came from, figuratively and literally. So,
Boom, boom.
so from my perspective, it makes more logical sense not just to have another person, but ideally the format is that kind of like what you have clinical setting where you have conversations and talk about real based things.
Hmm.
Yeah, off script, which is always fun.
It is. But a lot of people say, "What do you do, Wayne? What is it
I
that,
just touch people.
with your permission?"
This is where I'm not sponsored.
No.
This is where the website helps a lot.
Yeah. And I hope everyone's had a look at our new website, because boy, has he put a hell of a lot of time, effort, and energy into
Yeah,
it.
I'm not a person who really understands a lot when it comes to web development. If I'm honest, and this brings me on to an interesting topic that I find quite interesting. Um, the construct of being a therapist and a business person, the two do not marry very well.
No.
I mean, look at us. We've finished a full day of dealing with people. Now we're sitting down and talking, and it never stops.
No.
Um, but there, the concept of being a good business person and a good therapist is always a juxtaposition. When it comes to business, it is not something that comes naturally if you're an intuitive therapist. I
Mm.
feel to be a good business person, it's all about money. It's all about profit margins. It's all about capital, like getting that capital gain. When it comes to a therapist, you're there to literally help. Now, where it becomes hard, and they do try to educate you depending on your background and the industries, but they do try to educate you on your worth and your value of worth, or finance, or IP, intellectual property of what they're actually offering. And more therapists have a tendency to provide more information and not really get much financially in return, which has a bit of a pendulum situation because you just want to help. That's all you want to do. If you got the knowledge, you just want to help, and I get it.
Mm.
But also, I don't necessarily think that we always got to put things on a financial situation, because at the end of the day, um, although yes, it's important to have,
Food on the table.
yeah, yeah, it's also you've got to want to work as well.
Yeah.
And if you make it too much about your profits and all your profit margins and making sure you're hitting your KPIs and the like,
You lose that personal part.
yeah, the reason why you're doing it.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying what you do, it becomes a bit harder to wake up the next day and do it again. And when you're touching and talking with people, you're dealing a lot with their either idiopathic responses to life,
Yeah.
or just their drama. How you can help a client to a point and when to put a line and go, actually, this is what I'm worth now. The thing is, people always up their price without facilitating more. And the rule of thumb normally is if you're increasing your price and you're basically facilitating a different margin, there also needs to be an element of what are you actually providing that's different. And if it's only up because of inflation, then are you at the max capacity of what your clientele can financially facilitate at that point? And I think that's an important conversation to have at some stage. The point at the pointy end of your market where your clients can't really, or whoever's seeing you can't really continue to formulate the financial obligations, it becomes a little bit challenging.
Mm. And then you've got, you have to, like the accountant says, oh, put your
Yeah,
price
yeah,
up and
yeah,
do
yeah.
this, make more profit. And you
And
go,
it makes logical
yeah.
sense. But when you're working with a system that, especially for us, I always look at it going, how do we find that middle ground where we're still making sure that it's effective considering the economic crisis, and making sure that our clients aren't feeling the additional stress from us as well. So it's understanding that kind of balance. For me, I always like to provide more information, provide education, and when you look at the actual circumstances in which we're from, there's a bunch of other allied health practitioners that all had the same kind of realm. And I find more specifically here in New Zealand, where we are from, and more specifically to Christchurch, which is the city that we're in, I find it's very much a polarizing industry where everyone's kind of pitched against each other on a business like enemy based. Everyone's in competition, which doesn't make logical sense to me. When you think of from a therapeutic perspective, everything's meant to be complementary, and every person can actually gain insight with different types of therapy, and that gives that holistic construct. So that's very fascinating anyway.
And I mean, we're all different. We'll all have our certain ways of doing our treatments and our therapy. So I don't understand why we have to fight each other.
I mean, at the end of the day, and this is going to be probably a not popular conversation, manual therapy has not really changed in the 20 years that I've actually been a therapist. And what I mean by that is not necessarily like our understanding and the science that's come behind, the really evidence-based practice. It's primarily the manual techniques. The manual techniques haven't really changed, be it like massage specific. So if you're looking at your effleurages and your basic cross fibers and all the like, a lot of that hasn't really redeveloped. Trigger point has had its up and downs. Anatomy trains, like the concepts haven't really like changed. It's just been repackaged and reformulated and redistributed for different appliances.
They haven't changed all that much.
No, but like realistically, you're still touching a person, you're still moving the body and moving the tissue. So like the actual practical touch aspect of all forms of manual therapy has not really revolutionized in the last 20 years. The thing that has revolutionized in the last 20 years is just the science as to why it helps. And then businesses and other companies have basically decided, well, I can take that, repackage it, provide it into a different fancy little thing. And so what we can take away from that knowledge is understand that if manual therapy, the actual technical application to the body, hasn't really developed much further, but our understanding and our comprehension as to why it helps on the body, then it becomes a situation of, okay, well, it's our approach that's more effective. And then our approach looking at a situation with an individual, that becomes the primary goal. The reality with manual therapy, regardless of the industries, the fact of the matter is it's very hard to standardize your practice. It's not like we can just put a very much a little box around it and go, hey, you've got this injury. This injury has been catalogued to 15 other people with the same injury. We're going to treat this the same. Now, that's how you usually standardize anecdotal. But the reality is there's individuality and there's genes in there as well. So we're not really taking a lot. We're just fixing an element that's basically repetitive. And then we're coming up with outcomes based off repetitive. That's what's happening. Where I think the problem will potentially happen in the future is that we negate the probability of why the person in the first place as an individual occurred that injury, first and foremost, like mechanically, and then how are they feeling about that injury? Like, is there anything else associated? Is there a little bit of dissociation? Is there avoidance? Is there betrayal? All these other fun things. And like understanding the psychology of it as well. I feel like manual therapy is more than just touch. It's actually understanding that your brain is still connected to the rest of the body, and that includes thought. And understanding the parallels. It's two divisions, treated very separately. Like you're not going to necessarily do a psychological qualification just to manually treat someone. That's not how that works.
Oh, good God, I haven't got enough time.
They need boundaries. Understanding of like the totality of a person's system, independent to the stock standard, it's in my opinion one of the major approaches that I take anyway. And from my anecdotal approaches, I'm getting, quite positive outcomes. But that's very much perceived as well. It's very much a perceived thing, no different to pain. It's a personal perceived understanding of events. And so if you make an impact in someone's life, 9 times out of 10, it may or may not be successful. It doesn't change the outcome for the individual. And so if the individual sees the success out of it, that becomes its own benefit. And on a fundamental level, that's the basis of human touch. So, Mum,
yes, Wayne.
How did you get into massage?
Going through breast cancer and everything else after breast cancer, I just wanted to pump you full of drugs. And then there had to be something else out there, like aromatherapy. And I was getting sick of, I wasn't getting sick of, it was towards the end of being in aviation. Wayne, you'd moved over.
Yeah, I moved, yeah.
And finger out.
Yeah, I've been saying this for years, that you should use that qualification.
Yeah, that's pretty much what.
Because when I first moved here, I was in a different situation. I was about 150 kgs. I was just going through, a relatively awkward, hard first love based breakup, which is always groundbreaking. And I just kind of lost myself, and I had to re-find who I was. Ironically, I was working on horses before working back on humans. So biomechanics on a horse is like one of my specialties. Really enjoy it. I love horses. They don't talk.
They
Everything is
certainly let you know
everything.
what they
Oh yeah,
want.
everything is like it's all non-verbal, and you've got to be hyper aware on how they're communicating and what's working. And because they're prey based, you've got to be very like hyper aware of everything that's around them in order to get a good outcome. That's what I really liked. But then when you start working on horses, you realize that it's the people that are riding them that are causing the issues onto the horse. So then you can see historically how I went back into humans. That's when I implemented my approach and called myself what I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then told mum to pull the fucking figure out,
Yep.
and subsequently
Here we are.
she got to the decades later,
Mm-hmm.
and we went through what, 4 restructures to get here
Oh
as well.
gosh, yeah. We've learnt a lot over the years.
It's humbling.
Mm.
It is humbling.
Yeah.
The thing I probably would take away the most is knowing that, and this is coming with a bit of wisdom and paid therapy. Definitely get into a stage where you don't need to be the change. You don't need to create the change. You can just be. And especially more specifically last year, I've really grounded myself in that knowledge that I don't need to be anything more and try to fit
Into that box.
the situation where I'm trying to educate someone else to replace me or that kind of stuff, or have a legacy in that format. And so it's just a case of doing stuff like this, where I can still share the knowledge,
Yep.
share people's interactions.
Yep. Have fun along the way. I appreciate how much you put into this business, because it's not been an easy. I mean, coming over from Australia through a breakup, helping me set it, a couple over the years, helping me set up the business and taking and leading and driving. And
no one wants to see their loved one, be it like our relationship or another, to fail. And the first 3 years of business is usually the hardest. And so everything you implement at the start, you've got to have a consistency all the way through. And I feel like over the years, we've definitely facilitated the changes where needed. We've stayed somewhat grounded. I feel it's inevitable as business owners to get jaded, based off circumstances, based off whatever, because life happens. And the people that you think are in there for the long haul will eventually have whatever is planned. And you just got to kind of let that be.
People also need to understand how hard it is also to have a mother and their children or child working side by side. It has its challenges.
Oh, I mean, it has a like as much as there's challenges, there's a lot of really good things from it as well. Like I've got to see my mother in a light that I would have never seen. I would have never seen her in her working environment. I would have never seen her in her element and be along the journey. And you do see the pitfalls. You definitely see the clashes and the turmoil of, the relationship from being like a mother or a parent and trying to ease the pressures. And then also allowing the son to come through with knowledge. And, that's also a challenge to mitigate and regulate our website. I'm quite excited for it. Our website really, on a business format that we have, has 3 main functions. Can you book? Can you read about us? And our resource page. Now, the resource page is probably the bit that I'm probably the most proud of. So this is our first little dabble into the world of talking to a camera in a non-scripted format and seeing if we could actually accumulate any of this in a format that would actually work. First ones. No one's like, we're not making this so that people will actually listen. Like, neither one of us are talking to the camera in the hopes that someone's actually listening to us and taking us seriously. We're just doing this. And it's going to be a trial and tribulation kind of scenario where we're just going to fumble our way through all this.
Trying to learn to use mics, look at camera.
Yeah, there's so much happening in the back of the ground that
Dog was drinking, neighbours turning up.
But still, we did it, and this is now technically one of them. And from here, it only gets either better or horrendously worse. But I'm here for it regardless. Have a good one. Thank you for the episode, I assume.